In this clip, we will go through the process of creating an organisation value chain for our two examples: a snapper fishing company and the government department regulating fishing in Victoria. Let's consider our first example: a small fishing company off the coast of southern Victoria that catches snapper to be sold at the Melbourne Fish Market. In this example, the primary activities are logistics. That is, travelling to the best fishing location. This is a primary activity as customers are willing to pay for this rather than go fishing for themselves. And in this activity, the factory, which is the boat, is essentially being moved to the resource, the fish. Catching the fish, which can be considered procurement of raw materials. Processing the fish by snap chilling and storing. And finally, outbound logistics or distribution. That's delivering the fish to the market. The customer in this case is the fish buyer at the market who purchases from the fishing company and will then sell to the end consumers. The support activities include procurement of equipment, example fishing poles, bait, boat fuel, bookkeeping, invoicing and paying bills, human resource management, sourcing and hiring relevantly skilled employees, maintenance, the equipment, the boat, chilling freezers, delivery vehicles. Let's now consider our second example, in this case a public service government agency. The Victorian Department of Economic Development, Jobs, Transport and Resources is responsible for the issue of commercial and recreational fishing licences in Victoria, and it includes setting legislative limits to ensure the Victorian wild fish populations are not overfished. In this case, the Victorian public and the environment are the key stakeholders that are receiving value from the organisation. That is, they are equivalent to the end customers of a business. The organisation value chain in relation to fishing licences would include primary activities such as research and development. This is the scientific research to determine the sustainable limits and the current fishing stock levels. Policy production. This is the legislation that is created and implemented to set sustainable limits and requirements for licences and penalties. Marketing, where the department communicates to ensure that the relevant people, for example commercial and recreational fishers, are aware of the legislative licence requirements and size and quantity limits. Issuing licences to commercial and recreational fishers. And the final key activity is compliance and enforcement, to ensure that those limits are abided by and therefore protecting the fish populations. This is the end product of value. The support activities include finance and corporate services, accounting, securing funds from government and other sources, and administration assistance. Human resource management, again, sourcing and hiring relevantly skilled employees. And maintenance of the scientific equipment, the boats, the vehicles for compliance and enforcement, and computer systems. We have gone through example organisation value chains for these two examples to demonstrate the types of key strategic activities that should be considered when looking at these. The value chains you came up with might be different, but should include the essential elements as presented. Please note though that we have presented simplistic value chains for these organisations, and in reality they may be more or less complicated, depending on what the requirements are for the analysis associated with the value-adding activities in the value chain.